Hello my quilting friends, welcome back. My name is Laura, you've reached Lala D Stitches, and this episode is a quilting bee. It is late September and I am ready to switch over into my October stitching. So it was time to share what I've accomplished. It's been an interesting couple of months since we last met. So some things I made a lot of progress on, some things I made a little bit of progress on, and some of my goals or ideas have been scooched into the future. So yeah, I still have a lot to share and lots in my noggin. So let's dive into it. I'm hoping we have enough room. You know, it's okay. This room is a long room, and it's, I don't know. I feel like I had the perfect sewing room at my last place. I got spoiled by windows on multiple walls and just a space that felt comfortable and worked really well. And this one, I swear, I rearrange my furniture every 3 months, and I haven't quite found the magic arrangement yet. Anyways, so you'll have noticed, I'm sure, if you've been with me over the last year and a half, my angle for filming changes with the room arrangements. And so anyways, I think this works really well for cross stitching, but it might be a little harder to show some of my tops I've finished because I just can't get far enough away from the screen. We'll work with it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Overall, this arrangement is working well, so we'll scooge what we need to. Okay, I wanted to start this episode with not a discussion on my furniture arrangements, but I noticed a few recurring questions in my last couple of videos. So I am finally caught up on comments, so that feels really good. But I wanted to address, I figured since I was seeing these questions multiple times, it might just be easier and perhaps even more effective to answer in a video rather than, you know, typing in a novel in the comments. So the first question I get asked a lot is, do I use starch? And my answer has to be yes and no. So I know that some people will pre-wash fabrics and then press everything with starch, and kind of that is their prepping process for them moving into cutting and piecing and everything. I don't know if it's laziness, stubbornness, some combination of the two, but I've never been a pre-washer. I don't like that you lose some of your fabric because it's inevitable that it's going to fray on the edges, and I don't know. I've just never done it. And have I had a piece or two bleed over the years? Yes. I had a red that bled once, but it wasn't that bad. You know, fortunately I haven't had any disasters. Knock on wood, right? Where's some wood? Here we go. Knock on wood. But I've just never pre-washed. So I don't pre-wash, and so I don't do a big starch session either. I will press my fabrics before I cut them if they are particularly wrinkly, because my storage situation, which we'll address briefly in a moment, is organized chaos. Sometimes my fabrics do get wrinkly, and if it has a hard crease that doesn't come out with just a hot, dry iron, I have a squirt bottle that just has water in it, and I'll spritz it down and try to ease that crease. But other than that, I don't starch before going into piecing. Once I have my blocks finished, I do like a product called Flatter. Fig smells really good. And I'll do, you know, a spritz, just a light spritz over the block and then press it, and it just helps it lay flat, which is really nice. And technically it says it's a starch-free spray, so, you know, maybe I don't use starch at all. I have used in the past Best Press. I don't have any of it right now. And I have used that in place of water to get some hard creases out of, especially batiks like to hold a hard crease at the fold mark on a bolt. So, you know, I've used a couple different things, but I think the overall answer would be no, I don't use starch. There you go. I hope that was a helpful answer. I don't know. Yes, so my next question was, how do I store my scraps? Most of my collection is scraps. I have a few larger pieces. They're starting to dwindle as I've been using my scraps a lot over the last couple of years. And so the best way to show you without carrying a camera around to my corner of shame, it's not shame, it's organized. It's just, I admire the people who press and fold over cardstock and, you know, fold all their fat quarters and store by size. I've tried storing by size in the past, and what I found was that didn't work for me because I sew very scrappy, and so I dig through my colors every time I do a fabric pull. And when my stash was sorted by size, I missed things. I would go to the biggest bucket and look through that and forget that I had 2.5-inch squares in this bucket, or I was saving smaller scraps, you know, like smaller than 2.5 in this one, or I have, you know, I missed things. And most of the time that was fine, but every once in a while I found a piece that was like, oh, that would have been really good, and I totally didn't even look there. So storing by size does not work for me personally. And that makes some of those really aesthetic storage solutions not really practical in my room, in my studio. So I store in buckets this size. And they stack really nicely, and I move a lot. I have moved at least every 2 years for the last 20. And sometimes more than that. And there are a lot of reasons for that, but the short end of the stick is that I move a lot. And so buckets are practical because I don't have to pack these. These are they're move ready. I just throw some packing tape around the handles and shove them in the truck. So I've got this particular box is a Sterilite. Sterilite likes to change their style over the years, and sometimes that's been really good and sometimes that's been bad. And unfortunately, I do feel like their quality has gone down in recent years. The plastic isn't as durable as I think it was 10 years ago. But they're still good boxes. So that's what I've been using. They're cheap. You can get them at Walmart. And then this one is particularly organized. Please not... I should pull out like my pink and red box because it is shoved in there to capacity. This is far more organized because this is just my Halloween fabrics. So this is what it looks like. And I have them all pulled out because I have an active scrappy project you'll see in a little bit. So this is a very organized color box. More typically, they're stacked like this horizontally. and just stuffed into capacity. And I literally, I'll hold it up on my knees here. When I'm looking for fabric, I literally go like this. And it works. You know, I dig through, and if I'm looking for a more specific palette, I will pull everything out of the box and go one by one and put them back into the box as I'm looking for the perfect pieces. But so my color boxes, I have a blue box, a black and gray box, a red and pink box, purple, brown, gold, orange are all in one box, and then I have a giant green box. Why I couldn't find fabric for my jungle quilt remains a mystery, but it was just, you know. And then I have, so that's my like Gen Pop storage, and then I have a 1800s reproduction box, a 1930s reproduction box, and two batik boxes. But those ones, the batik boxes are twice as deep as this. I have a pretty solid collection of batiks. And so is my 1800s reproduction. It's the double deep one. Do I have any others? Christmas is segregated from everything too. So Christmas, Halloween, batiks, 1800s, 1930s. I think that's everything that's kept separate, and then color boxes. And that's how I store them. And I keep my totes. I have a stack of my color wall, if you will, in here, and then I keep all my specialty stuff tucked under my bed in my bedroom because I don't have a closet in here. So that's my fabric storage, organized chaos, and it works for me. It really does, because I know I need a red. I just go to the red box and everything I have is there. And so on and so forth. So that works for me. And yeah. And then I also had a question about prepping and storing projects, which kind of segues into that. So when I do a fabric pull, I have smaller, like shoebox sized boxes, and this one is like half prepped. You can see some are just stacked in there, and then some are already cut and ready to go. And we'll go through this box more thoroughly when I get to that project specifically, but I try to have a tote for each active whip in my quilting, and that's really helpful because then when I'm a seasonal quilter as well as a seasonal stitcher, so as you'll see, I've kind of phased out for now some of my brighter palette quilts, and I've brought in the warmer, more seasonal projects, and all I do is I tuck my totes for those away and kind of rotate into my active stack of projects. So yeah, that's kind of how that works. And I try to label, I don't label my color boxes because I can just see through them. This one doesn't have a label yet, but you can see the tape where the last project had been stored in here. I like to put just a 3x5 or 3x3 sticky note with what project it is on, taped onto the box. So that way when they're stacked, even though I can see through it, you know, it's nice for these ones to have a little label, and it can be just a quick reference point. Okay, next question was, how do I hang my small projects? By which they meant my soft finishes, like you'll see behind me. So this is my Sasquatch sampler, which I don't think is its real name. And then I also have my owl with the moon hanging back there. The answer is I hang my small quilts like a heathen. Let me see if I can use, well, I just use pins. Yeah. So I have tried hangers. You can see that Sasquatch here has, and this one was not made by me, that was a gift, but I've done this method before, and it has tabs that flip up. They're just sewn into the binding, and you can flip them up and hang them on hooks, or I mean, I'm sure that's what normal people do. I hang mine on pins because they're readily available and inexpensive. I have been known to use thumbtacks, which I'm not proud of, but you know, it's fine. Pins are really, they don't damage anything. And especially with something small, it's not heavy. So you can kind of see, if you look really closely, if I can point in the right spot. There's my pin. And there's my pin, roughly. So it really only takes two. They're not heavy. They're small projects. A pin just works. I've used a dowel rod before. I don't care for that because it makes ever so slightly the project like is further out at the top. And it's a silly thing, but it bothers me. So I've discontinued using dowels. I know I've heard of people sewing little plastic towel rod rings onto their corners, and then they can hook those onto nails or pins or command hooks or whatever, and that would be a really great way to do it too. Maybe someday when I grow up, I'll do something less pinny. But for now it works for me, and that's how I hang them. Yeah. There you have it. The nitty-gritties of all of my quilting sins. And then the final question is my new background quilt. Oh. She's beautiful. She's old. And I have spent an inordinate amount of time digging through my patterns, and I cannot find it. I know it came from a magazine. I made it about 20 years ago, and it was a magazine quilt. I'm fairly confident I changed the palette on it to we'll adjust the camera here. Yeah, this was early days, well, relatively early days. I was in my late teens when I made this one. The inches finish at 1. The inches finish at 1. The squares finish at 1 inch. It's beautiful. And I want to say, if I remember right, that the sashings were all one color in theirs. I scrapified it from what I can remember. There was 2 colors, but I want to say the checkerboards, we'll go teacher style. The checkerboards were scrappy, but then all of these would have been the same color. All of the greens would have been the same green. All of the browns would have been the same brown. And I scrappied it up. So I have a variety of greens, a variety of browns with our rust accents. And it's so funny. I look at the quilting on it and it's perfectly serviceable, but it was definitely in my early days of teaching myself to quilt, and I would not have chosen the color of thread I used now. And I guess I can say I've improved. My quilting has come a long way. Anyways, but I love it. It's old and tired and covered in strings because it sits on my couch this time of year. Yeah, it sits on my couch typically this time of year. Let me see if I can get the camera back wherever we had it before. I don't know. It's fine. It's good enough. Anyways, I love it. I wish I had more information for you. I even took a picture of it and tried to do a Google image search of it, and it couldn't find it. So all I know is it's from an old magazine that I had ripped the pages out of one of my mom's or my grandma's or somebody's magazine, and yeah, and I customized it. So I wish I had more information. I'm sorry. It's overexposed because we're a very, very bright world here. Okay. Stop messing with the camera. It's gonna be fine. Okay, so I think that's the most important of the questions. Everything else I answered, or at least that's all I wrote down on my Q&A scratch card here. Okay, beautiful. So let me know if you have any other questions. After that, I hope I caught all the important moments, but yeah. Okay, so let's dive into, I have 3 tops that I finished, and I had actually hoped to have 2 of them quilted, but my machine is still in the shop. My big one that I use to quilt, and I could quilt at least one of them on my 350. I have a Bernina 350. But I'm not quite there yet. We'll see. If it's not finished in the next week or so, the one in the shop, I might just quilt it on a smaller machine because, you know, it's totally doable. It's just a little less comfortable. Anyways, yeah, I have 3 tops finished, and one of them is a complete, like, out of left field moment. So we'll start with that. It comes from, I'll pop a picture up because my sister has my book. The book is called Better by the Dozen. I don't remember the author, but it'll show on the cover here. And I've actually, this is my 2nd or 3rd quilt from that book. And we had started, it's in all primarily 1930s prints. I did a low volume background in it. So those aren't 30s, but I tried to keep them 30s-ish. Anyways, we started this in 2015 when she had just graduated from college and had moved back closer to family, but she wasn't making enough to have her own place. So she was living with my husband and I. She was a basement troll for a while. And frankly, I credit that time living together for her getting into quilting and cross stitch more. So it was good. We had a lot of fun, and she's a good housemate. But we started this, and we got all of our blocks cut out, and we had 3 or 4 done. And every year, springy, summery times come around, and we're like, we should pull that out again and like get that finished. And we'd do 1 block here and 1 block there, and then nothing. And basically, by the start of August this year, I had all of the main blocks done and nothing else. And she pulled hers out, and for some reason, it just like became an obsession for me to get this finished. So here it is, all done. And like I said, I'm not sure how well these will show. I'll do my best to get the whole thing in frame, but I don't know if we're gonna make it. I will post pictures to my Instagram. Stand on my chair here. It's so cute. Ah, I'm gonna die. Okay, we're gonna do something scary. Don't look. Ugh. Okay. The things I do for you people. Okay, that's most of it. Ish. Apparently I need to stretch more because I can really feel this. Okay. Alright. Anyways, so this quilt book is cool because there are 12 blocks and they use them. I'll get up close here. most of the quilts, if not all of them, I think you do 2 of each block. And then they have different layouts and different ways to use them. So I think the last one I did had like an Irish chain going through the blocks, and I've had that one done for years. And this one has these twisty quarter log cabins. And I love, something I love is that a lot of, well, I don't know how to, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyways, I love it. It's great. I've been hoarding this piece for years for the right thing, and I often, often when I would pull it out, I would think to myself, oh, that'd be such a cute skirt, or maybe it'd be a pretty blouse, and yes, it would be, but it's also a really pretty, happy border. And it just, oh, this is one of my favorites in this quilt, this fabric. This is an old, this is a vintage piece of fabric that I had like just a weird old scrap of. It's hard to use those ones sometimes when you know that they're irreplaceable. A lot of these are just, most of these in fact are reproductions. But there are a couple authentic vintage ones in there, and they're treasures, and it's good to use them. Use the treasures, because now every time, once I get this quilted, which I have been dictatorially demanded to do by my niece. She was over right after I finished this, and she's like, "For Sisha?" Her name is Sirsha, and she refers to, pronouns are hard, she refers to herself in the third person a lot. But she has decided that this quilt is one she wants to cuddle up with when she comes to Auntie's house, so I'll have to get it quilted as soon as I can. I don't have any backing for it yet, and it would be nice to use a 30s print. Or if I were to stay lighter, you know, this is one of my old ones. It's quite thin. But something along those lines, a low volume, would be really pretty on the back of this too. Because I feel like, for me, white backs just feel like this big blank canvas that nothing happened on. And I have a hard time with that. But something light and airy would be really pretty on the back of this, because there's a lot going on. It's busy. It's busy. But yeah, feels like a huge accomplishment. Kind of came out of nowhere for me. I hadn't even planned to work on this quilt this year, and here it is. A done top. A done top? Yeah. Our grammar is going places in this house. I don't know where it's going, but it's going somewhere. Sorry for any noise. I have my window open. It's apparently summer is trying to come back in Utah, and I reject that idea. Last week was so cool and lovely, and this week has been still very pleasant. I will say that. It's not like it's 100 degrees, but I don't want mid-80s in the end of September. I want cool sweater weather. I want sweater weather. Okay, next one. I do have a picture for. So this one I finished the center of last year. This is Halloween Fig Sampler by Fig Tree. And I had all of the blocks put together last year, which was a huge mile marker for this project. But I hadn't done any of the borders, and you can see there's this one which is a pieced border, which wound up being a bit fiddly because it has to match. And so I'll tell you what I did wrong. There are actually, they look like they would be the same size, piece all through here. Let's get the quilt out. Let's show you. I had the top done, so these look like they should be the same size, but they're not. They're 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch. It's not a big measurement, but it's just enough measurement off that like some are bigger than the others, and they're supposed to alternate where they sit on, but it's different from side to, anyways, pay attention. When they give you your labels, don't arrogantly take your labels off like I did. I was like, oh, I've got this. No big deal. And then everything was screwy, and I literally had to take all my borders completely apart after they were pieced together and did not match. And then measure each block and relabel them so that they were in the right stack, so they got pieced in the right order so that they fit. And there was still a tiny bit of easing I needed to do, but it fit this time instead of not. So, also I wasn't going to move this chair, but I did. Oh well, that's okay. So, long story long, I have it done. And I love it, and I'm trying to scrap. Oh my gosh, I should show you this pile of batting scraps. I'm trying to scrap together batting enough so that I can quilt this, because I've pulled together a bunch of scraps for back, and I found that, but batting is apparently in short supply in my house, so anyways, I would really love to get this quilted so that it can hang on my wall. That would be really fun. But I'm not sure I have enough batting to make it happen. It's so pretty. I love it. I did mine as a block of the month at the shop, through the shop I worked for, Pioneer Quilts in Portland, Oregon. If you live there, you should go, because it's awesome. But even though I had a kit, I swapped some of my fabrics out. And I've shown you this before, but I'm going to show you again, because I can. So the kit is all fig tree fabrics, but I swapped out for some subtle Halloween nods. So we've got some skulls, and those feature in a couple. Oh, here we go. We've got a spider, and this one's kind of a Baltimore style, ghosts and bats and stuff. These have little bats on them. But I tried very carefully to keep everything orange and black and cream so that it would all blend in and feel very like intentional, you know, like it was meant to be. Like I didn't do anything different. So there's my ghosties. So cute. But from far away, they don't distract from everything else going on. Anyways, I love it. It's so pretty. And I'm so pleased to have it done. See, wouldn't that look good on the wall? Should I stand behind it? Okay. Anyways. Da 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 da! I'll fold it better later. Okay, and last but not least, this is going to be the hardest one to show because it is the biggest one. Okay, so that was Halloween Fig. We'll tuck you down here. So this one is Cabin Peaks. And I thought I would be working on this kind of until November. But I just, every once in a while, I reach a point in a project where I'm like, I just find this obsessive drive, and that's all I want to work on until I reach whatever landmark I have set in my brain for myself. And this one was done, was the landmark. So last year I wound up, oh, let me tell you what I'm doing with this one. So, Cabin Peaks. It's this gorgeous ombre by Cotton and Joy. I want to do this peachy version sometime because it's so pretty, but I would do like a lap size, you know, smaller. This I started with the intention of doing a twin and wound up expanding it to a queen because I could. Anyways, it's super cute, and they give you this great, I don't think this counts as, yeah, this will be fine. They give you this great grid in the back so you can make your own color ideas, and they do a really great job of showing what the different sizes are. Anyway, so I did queen, which means I used 13 different colors, so 13 different rows. And I don't know why I put that in quotations. Quotations is like a weird tick I've got right now, but so 13 different colors, and then I did scrappy, creamy backgrounds in those rows. And so you'll see that here. Chair. Okay. So first I'll show you the up close. So we've got, each row is the same color, but then the backgrounds are different from each other. So here we go. It's queen, so she's not all gonna show. If those ones didn't all show in one frame, this isn't gonna show in one frame, but I'll do my best. Let's see, so we did brown at the top, and then it fades through the rust colors. Oh! Don't die. Into greens. And then from the greens, it fades into blues and ends at a beautiful plum. It's really rich. Can you see? Whoa. Don't die. Anyways, let me see if I can get some of the transition, because it was very exciting. So because these are quarter logs again. Another interesting use of quarter logs, such a versatile block. I love a log cabin. But they're set on point, so the rows are actually assembled on the diagonal to get that angle. So I would start with, you know, this one and then work this way through the rows. The rows go this way. And I have to be a little careful with it because all of these raw edges are actually biased edges, so it'd be really easy to stretch it out. But just try to kind of show the color progression here. Oh. Yeah. Anyways, I love her. I think it's really pretty. For such a simple concept, it's really effective. Here you go. Ah. This is such an acrobatic activity. Yeah, anyways. She's done. I'm thrilled. It's so pretty. I want it on my bed. And I have a larger piece of flannel that I bought on sale around the same time I made this quilt behind me. And it's not an exact match, but it's the back. It's gonna be fine. And it's closer to, in keeping, it's a little lighter than this shade, basically. It'll be cozy. Anyways. Yay! I felt so good. That was huge. I mean, that took a solid week or two of that was the only thing I was working on. Yeah. Anyways, so now I just need to quilt that one, but I'm not quilting that one without my bigger machine just because there's so much bulk to a queen size. I have quilted once upon a time a queen size on a small machine. And it's possible, but it's kind of brutal on the body, so I choose not to. It can wait, and if I had it quilted by November, that would be awesome, and if that didn't happen, and, you know, that's okay too. That's okay too. All right, ooh, crumdom. I just ran over my project down here. Got projects all over the place. Okay, so now those are the 3 tops. Whew, it always takes a while to show those just because I want you to get the best view you can, but anyways, yes. I have also been working on other things, so let's do those real quick. Let's start with my learning curve. Caution Curves Ahead is a Jen Kingwell quilt I am stitching along with. I started along, let's put it that way rather, with Laurel. I am a stitch nerd, and we started this earlier this summer, and I am woefully behind. Let me see if I have a picture of. I do, in my brain binder. Let me pull that out. Oh, yo. Okay, yeah, we're good. Clicked a button. I thought I had maybe paused things. Okay, brain binder. Things are in a slightly different order because I reorganized for a different season. Okay, here we go. Caution Curves Ahead. Here is a full shot of that. It's gorgeous. And this is this was a Sue Spargo block of the month version, but I liked their palette of it, a little bit richer, warmer tones, and so I created my palette page off of that. And yes, first month went pretty well, and this month is proving, the second month, which is where I have been working, second and third months. These blocks, I tell you what, they are humbling. I would not call this a beginner-friendly project. And Jen Kingwell, in general, puts a lot of assumption of knowledge into her books. So it's just something to be mindful of. So the blocks I've been working on are this one and this one. And this one, I might wind up redoing them. Tell you what though. What? I don't know where my brain was going with that. Okay, I might wind up redoing them because they're tough little suckers. But I got better as I went. So everything in this book is curves. Curves, curves, curves. And, which is great. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy curves. I've done several quilts that have had machine pieced curves in them, and so I thought this is gonna be a breeze. Maybe I have to slow down a little bit, but it's not gonna be a big deal. Try again. Look at my pretty curves. Okay. It's kind of like a mountain. Some spots are smooth, and some spots almost have angles. It's so bumpy. It's so bad. So this was the first one I did. And then the next one got a little bit better. See, that's good. That one was better. Little bumpy. Still pretty bumpy. But overall better. And by the third one, which I sewed, you'll notice, in the wrong order, but better curves. Smoother Still a little snuggle-blue-goo. There, that's a technical term. But that one is good. That one's even pretty good. So here's the moral of the story. Even people with a lot of experience have things to learn is one of the lessons. And the next lesson is keep trying, because you will get better. So then the question is, do I leave my ugly blocks in there as a reminder of that lesson, or do I take the skill I have begun to learn and make new blocks? I'll probably make new blocks at some point, but I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to let it sit for a while, and maybe I'll just throw them in there and be like, look, I got better, and this was a quilt of learning. So you can do anything, just have to keep trying. And these were awkward little blocks, there's no doubt, but I'm pretty proud of the progress from 1 to 2. So, yeah. So there are those. And then I did one of the next one, which went super smoothly until I had to put this middle in. And all she says, it's a really helpful pattern. I'll read you exactly what the pattern says. Lastly, stitch template 3D into the hole in the center. Okay. I will try. And I did try. So you make all of these units, and they're so pretty, and then you sew them all together and everything's still going well, and then you add this in. But it requires, I'm going to show you my back, I don't like doing that, not because I'm embarrassed, but because it's like showing underwear. So what it does not say is that this is going to be extremely awkward. And really, you're sewing very short little lengths of seam. So there are 2 ways you could do it. You could sew one and back up at each end and then sew the next one, or you could do like I tried to do and sew and pivot and sew and pivot and sew and pivot and sew and pivot, and that was okay. But I definitely had to go back to these longer seams and pop a 1/4 inch back and then backstitch to secure that, because you don't want it to unravel. Going into the next one, I will sew down to a 1/4 inch and then backstitch and not sew that final 1/4 inch, because that gives you room to manipulate these seams. They have to go somewhere, right? And if you have it sewn together, what you usually get is a bulk. So mine are, I don't know how to show that, but anyways. Yeah, this wound up, I was feeling pretty good about myself, and then I was very quickly humbled, because you can see there's a little bit of fullness, and I think that will quilt out, you know, like it's a little rankly dankly, but once everything else is rankly dankly, it's gonna be fine. And again, this is my first block. By the time I do 3 more, I'll be better. So there you go. This is an honest floss tube. It's pretty though, right? Like, I love the colors in that one. That was a fun fabric pull. So that's Caution Curves Ahead. And I don't know, I had it charted out that I would keep working on this all seasons. I might take a break from it. We'll see what happens. Next one is Cream and Sugar. This is by It's So Emma. It's really, really pretty. And when I first bought it, I thought I would do it pretty much as pictured, because I love those creamy with the tans, and it's just simple and gentle and elegant. But I like to complicate things, so I did. And I'm stitching mine after being inspired by something on Instagram. I'm stitching mine all in low volumes. So here is a color swatch page of the fabrics I'm using. And my concept with this is that you'll have your blocks and you'll be able to see the blocks, but it's not as stark a contrast. There's a bit more blending happening. So they'll almost all read more like this, and then in low volumes, which are colorful and fun. And so far I am loving what's happening. These blocks did give me a bit of a go. Maybe it was just something in the water this month. I was having piecing challenges. But that's okay because they turned out great in the end. So this is my wrinkliest one. I had these center blocks done, and then this go round I added the larger blocks. But either I pieced something wrong, which I don't think I do because they measured correctly, or the pattern, okay, it could be three things. I either pieced something wrong, I cut something wrong, or the pattern is slightly off. Because when I got my pieced triangles sewn onto this length was too big to fit onto these blocks. So I actually wound up having to deconstruct them partially and cut this triangle down so that it fit better, so that my points matched for one thing, and then it fit a little bit better. You can see there's some wrinklies still. I mean, I still had to ease a little bit, but that'll come out in the wash. It'll be fine. It's my humility block. It's fine. But that's the basic idea. So you can see the block, but a bit more blendy. So that's the first one. And I have 4 or 5 of those. This one. Get a little closer. And I've tried to keep the backgrounds consistent, but because I'm working from scraps, some of them are and some of them aren't. So this is an example of I have multiple backgrounds. It is what it is. But I tried to keep them the same color-ish. I love the ladybugs. So cute. And then this one has all the same background, I think, on it. It's definitely a bit calmer that way, but it's all gonna blend together anyways. Sorry for any fold lines and stuff. These blocks are just a little too big to have sitting anywhere unfolded. I love this one though. This one's really pretty. And final one is this one. From a distance, you still see the star, which is the goal, that those will still show, but softly. So that's pretty fun. That felt good to get done. They wound up being, because of that, I really do think that the called for square, you cut it into 4 triangles, is just slightly too big. Because my center blocks were measuring accurately. So, you know, seam allowances are important. That is something that can affect your block sizes, how they finish. Okay, here we go. That's what I was looking for. So you do have to watch your seam allowances. Consistency is the key to results, right? But I now have all of these big stars done, all of them. So next I start going into they call them, I think they're medium size range. So that's going to be like these baskets and not that one because I've done that one. Maybe there's just a few. It's the baskets and then we go into some of the smaller ones. Anyways, we're starting to shrink. Our size of block is starting to shrink, which is pretty exciting. Because then you can see here, there's just a few of them, and then the small blocks, the smallest ones, which float in between everything. I think those will go really quickly compared to the big ones, because the big ones you're basically making 2 blocks for each one. Yeah, anyway, so that's been fun. I'm really enjoying that one. It takes a little bit of time to pull the fabrics for it, but I think it's gonna be really fun when it's all put together. It'll certainly be different than anything I've done, which is exciting. Try to stack these up. I kind of just chucked them under the table here. I don't want them to get too wrinkly dinkly. Okay. It's getting warm in here. All right, so there they are, all 5. That's another one though. I don't have any timeline on that one. That one's just kind of a fun experiment. So that one's gonna get tucked away probably till late winter, early spring, something like that. To make room for other projects. Our next one, this one got a lot of work, and it was definitely one of the ones that took more of my time. And then I found out I was short a block, so that was a bummer. So this is Brilliant Stars. I'll show you my cover page first. I'm missing a block. That's my big old arrow reminder here. But this is based off of, let me see. Yeah, we'll just do this picture. Based off of an antique. And it's gorgeous. I love it just as it is there, but gotta do my own thing with it. So this is my palette. I started it in early summer last year, or maybe it was even late summer, but I had the idea early summer. Oh, hair in my eye. And I got partway through the blocks. I don't know that I was completely halfway, but I got quite a few done. Anyways, I have all but 1 block done now. And I tried so hard. So this is another one, like with my Cabin Peaks, my Spicy Autumn one. You have to cut some of the blocks, but you use the other half in other places. So let me see if I can show this without showing pattern. There you go. So here you can see that some of the blocks are cut in half. So I was thinking, okay, I'm missing a block. Maybe I'll be fine. Maybe I can fudge this. No. I need to have that. I need to have that last block. So I'll have to pull my fabrics out again, because I had this one all cut out and ready to go. So I'll have to find the fabrics, cut another block, and then make it. Shouldn't take too long, but it was a bit disappointing because I was fairly confident I had them all done, and then I didn't. Anyways, let me show you what I did. I'll try to anchor them on this board just to hold up the bulk of them. And there are probably strings because we're in a studio. Anyways, I have not trimmed, you're going to see snaggly edges. I have not trimmed down the edges yet. I figured I'd just wait until I get to the assembly point for that. But they all have the same strawberry background, which I love. And you'll see more of as the blocks get sewn together in the quilt itself. because there are bigger triangles that sit in between. I love the herons in this fabric. So cute. Bright and citrus. Oh, that's a happy one. I love this block. It's so different from the others, but that was intentional. Because in the antique, there are a couple blocks that are like, well, now where did that one come from? So this is my where did that one come from. But I love it. When I laid this one out, I kind of geeked out. So pretty. Ugh, I love the blendy ones too, the more chromatic. I have some that are kind of striped, and when I made this one, it was so satisfying. That star just pops in the center, but picks up the orange in this accent piece. Oh, I don't know, it's so good. This has been a really fun project. It's very different from anything I've ever done, and I've always wanted to do a Lone Star quilt, so this felt like a good lead into that because it's a very similar assembly process. So pretty. And I just want to do all the stars and diamond shaped things. Ooh, I love this one. So good. Ooh, I love this one too. I'm so into brown right now. I don't know what it is. Got some significant fuzzies on this one. I must have had to re-sew this. If you're new, I have a 3 strikes you're out rule, which means if my points don't match, I can re-sew it twice more, and if they still don't match after that, they are what they are. I really value precision in my quilting, but not at the price of joy. So that's my rule. 3 strikes you're out. So yeah, all but one. So that's 24 out of 25 blocks I need. And this is ready to get a layout and then be assembled. So I'll have to move some furniture around so I can lay the whole thing out, because right now I do not have a big enough space to lay this out. But this is a huge accomplishment. This is a lot of work in these, and I love them so much. I think this is going to be one of those quilts that I really have a soft spot for. Okay, what else did I work on? Baker's Dozen. This is another big project. I love this one though. The more I work on it, the more I like this project. And this is a secret, not so secret project that I'm making for my husband. I'm trying to have it done for Christmas. And I think I'm on track for that. Where is it? Where does it live in my binder? There it is. Everything's in a different spot. So, yes. Ooh, I still have the largest round. So, Baker's Dozen is by, Slap, is by Jen Kingwell. And it is a round robin style quilt. So you start with the center. Do they have a big flat presentation of this? Yes, here we go. So you start at the center, you add a border, and then you add a ring of blocks and a ring of blocks and a final ring of blocks. I have completed the center and the first ring of blocks, and I now have the second ring of blocks pieced. but not added on. And now I'm starting to work on this final ring of blocks, which is very exciting. The biggest work is in these corners, which you'll see in a minute. But once those corners are done, it's going to go lickety-split. So I'm feeling fairly confident that this is going to happen this year. I wanted it done for last Christmas and then just had zero enthusiasm for the project. This year, it's been much better. So let's see what the blocks are. And I have to be careful because they are labeled, and that is for placement. So I'm going to try not to. I might just hold them up against, I don't know what the best way to do this. Maybe the paper, maybe the board is good. Okay. So the first one, I am stitching this, or making this quilt. My husband, whoopsie, loves 1800s reproductions fabric. They're his favorite section of a quilt shop. So this is I'm using exclusively my 1800s stash, which I hope he appreciates because there's some good ones I'm cutting into. Now he's worth it. It was smart of me to pin those on. Why didn't I do that with the other ones? He loves green, blue, and orange, so you'll see a lot of those in there. He also adores paisley print. It's one of his favorite things. He's always pointing out paisleys and ties and socks and fabrics. I think if I made the whole house paisleys, he would just die of happiness. I think they're fine, so they're trickled through the home. I love this one. I fussy cut these fireworks so that they would kind of be flying together. This is a neat fabric. I've used that one in several spots in this quilt so far, and quilt is funny because on their own, the blocks, some of them are really fun and some of them are kind of like, and then we have oodles and oodles of checkerboard blocks. Anyway, some of them look really good on their own and some of them are kind of not my favorites, but they still work. But what I found is once you get them in the rounds, once you get them sewn onto all the other pieces together, it's kind of like magic what happens. All this business becomes something interesting. All right, checkerboards for days. So that is the whole third round. They just need to be pieced together into rows and then sewn onto the center. And then I started, I don't know what I was smoking the day I did my first counting. So I have a series of stripy corners, which are foundation pieced and cut down. These are already cut down to size. And what I found the last time I did them, you'll notice these ones are big and fat. But what I found with the last round was that these, when they are smaller little flags, this one will probably be okay, but some of them just like disappeared. So I just intentionally sewed a fatter piece on. It'll be fine. But I literally had some fall off because the center block, so the centers have these stripy pieces also. In fact, the blocks are fairly, some of them are the same as the center, and then some of them have different kinds of stars going on. Anyways, So I did my counting. I was like, okay, I need 16 because I'm making 8 blocks. No, I'm making 4 blocks like this. So I needed 16 because there's one in each corner of these larger blocks. So I started sewing these, and I mean, this was between cutting the strips, which I had some done, but I had to cut them down. I thought they were going to be good to go, but they needed 1-inch strips, not 1.5-inch strips. So I had to cut my strips down, and then I had to dig out my foundation paper, which was hiding in Mordor, and then I glued my center strip on just with some Elmer's glue, really light, just a couple dots to hold it in place, because pins get in the way to no end. But Elmer's glue is water soluble and non-toxic, and there's no acid in it, so it doesn't affect your fabric in a negative way. And anyway, so I did all the things, and I'm sewing all the blocks. I'm like, oh, thank heavens, I am done. There are 16 of these. Woof! What an accomplishment. I feel so good about myself. And then I looked at the pattern, and I realized I had just accomplished 1/3 of what I needed to do, and now I get to do 32 more. So that'll take a couple of days for sure, at least. Anyway, so yes, I have 32 more stripy little squares to make, but then I'm ready. That's like the tedious part of it. The good thing is I can turn a show on my TV and just like, it's pretty mindless, right? Place a strip, sew it down. And I was chain piecing them, so I just run them through and then cut them apart and run the next set through. And that worked pretty well. Definitely streamlined it a little bit. Anyways, I'm really excited to see how this one comes out, because it's definitely busy. It's intentionally busy, but there's such a warmth to these colors. It's very satisfying, and so far I'm really loving how the quilt looks. So and every time he walks by, he has no idea what the quilt is or who it's for or anything. I was working on those with him, like in the room next to me. He has no clue. It's fabulous. Flying under the radar in plain sight. But he has no idea. So every time he walks by and he's like, ooh, I like that fabric. I'm like, yeah, you do. That's right. It's almost like I know you. Almost like we've been married for almost 14 years. So yeah, I feel good about that progress. It's good progress. Still lots to do, but with some focus. I am feeling really good about getting that quilted before the end of November. Okay. So then I dipped my toe for the last couple things. I dipped my toe into some Halloween projects because I'm a pirate this year, and why wait? But first I have to find it. Oh yeah. Grace is over there talking to me. Maybe I don't have it in my binder yet because it's too new. Okay, it's not in the binder yet. That's fine. Something to do. So this is Village by Jumble, and it's designed to be made with 5-inch charm packs. So it's busy, because you think a charm pack typically has 25 to 40 different prints in it, depending on the size of the line. So there's a lot of different fabrics going there, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, this is the perfect project for scrappy Halloween houses. So I am making a haunted village, and it is so much fun. And I did talk about last time we met, I had kind of gone digging for black backgrounds, because that was my original vision, was just a deep night black Halloween printy backgrounds. But I don't apparently have very many Black Halloween-y prints. So, and it's so funny because I actually got a comment for this the day after I drew this picture. So I was like, okay, but I've got grays and I've got whites, and what if night was fading? Like Hocus Pocus style. So I made a grid for each house, and this is our background colors, and they will fade into lighter prints. And then I got a comment, and I didn't write down the handle who said it, but they're like, what if you did scrappy fading to lighter backgrounds like the night is fading? I'm like, oh my gosh, great minds. We are on the same page, sister, because I thought the same exact thing. So what I'm doing, since this is completely scrappy, it's quite a process to pick out my fabrics. So let's go back to my bucket here. So I pull out the backgrounds first. I follow my chart, and I know I've got black, charcoal or dark prints, gray prints, cream prints, and white-ish background prints. And I've kind of got them sorted that way in here. So I pull out my backgrounds, and then I find houses that look cute with that. And I wind up with this big jumbly mess that I have to keep in order, or I don't know what house goes where. So I'm actually taking a picture with my phone of all of my pieces laid out and then cutting the houses out so that I don't get lost. So here is where we are. And they look so busy until you start adding these sashing strips, which are random in each row. There are 12 houses in each row, and then the backgrounds, these little sashing strips, pop up in different places in each row so that houses are offset from each other, which I love. It's so much fun. Right? Here's our last house. But so this little gray ghosty print looks pretty random right now, but I'm really excited for what it's gonna do, because I didn't want, and this is such a messy, I need to redraw this because it makes sense to me, but I'm sure it's just gobbledygook to you guys. Anyways, you can see my D's are kind of in there. That's my dark charcoals. And then these darker bits are my blacks. Anyways, as I tried to keep it pretty random, but I wanted a fade. And so interspersed into my deepest moments are a couple pops of like the next step lighter, or here the night fades down into the corner, so I have one lighter pop just to kind of like sprinkle it through so it's kind of a pixelated fade. Anyways, I think it's pretty fun, and it's been really fun working with these prints because I've been fussy cutting some as I can into the doorways, which is just giving fun little peekaboo moments for these fabulous Halloween prints, which are just so cute and happy, and yeah, really fun, really fun. So there's row number 1. I just pulled the fabrics for the second row yesterday, and I've definitely decided I'm assembling this by row, and it will grow as I do it rather than just having a stack of blocks like this. I think that would get so messy, and it could be really overwhelming for the final layout. So I decided there is no final layout. I'm just going to stitch them as I make them, and then when I get row 2 on, I will sew it onto the top of this row, and it will just grow as I make the blocks. So that will help it stay a little less chaotic. But they're so cute and fun. This is just a fun project. It's so whimsical, and there are almost no rules with it other than make sure the house shows and keep your background straight. So yeah, pretty fun. Okay, so that's that. I'm gonna keep working on that. I actually have, we'll see how it goes, because Baker's Dozen, especially as we go through further into October. October starts in a couple days. So especially as October wanes, I will begin to feel more pressure for Baker's Dozen. So that's really priority number one. But then underneath that priority, I'm hoping I could get one row of houses done every week, because that would just be fun. And easy sewing. And then I also am pulling out my Pushing Up Daisies, which I started last year. It's so cute. It's so funny. Those skulls kill me. But I did one block of each last year. And I actually have this entire quilt cut out and ready to go. It's basically a pre-cut kit right now. So I have one flower that needs to be pressed. And this background is so much fun. It has the skulls and the flowers in it. It felt so appropriate. I just fell in love. Anyway, so I have one flower done, and I did one skull, and I stitched it with black, and have definitely decided that the further ones I'm going to use a gray thread, which will just balance between the white and the black better. It doesn't show too terribly, but when I get up close, I can see the shadow of the black thread, which I do not like. And frankly, if I had enough fabric, I might even stitch an extra skull and put this one on the back or something. Or make a pillow or something with it. Anyways, they're so cute. I would like to get a couple of each of these blocks done just to get more progress on them through October, which will be super fun. And that encompasses my Halloween quilting. Yeah, cute, cute, cute. So much fun. And I'm using some of the, I've changed my background and all of my greens came from Stash, but I'm not going as orange with my blooms. My blooms are all pretty pink and purple. So, I don't know. I know I have it in here. Anyways, those are my priorities for October stitching, but I also, it's so funny, when I did that 1930s top, I started going into kind of my archived WIPs and seeing what was interesting to me again. And so I've pulled some things out. This is a runner I started, oh my goodness, before I even met my husband, so at least 15 years ago. And I have decided I don't have a dining room table right now. We have a big island that has bar stools at it. And I put a runner on my island, but this isn't my style anymore. It's so cute, so cute. But I always have a bowl of fruit or a vase or something, a candle or something in the middle. And so I prefer more pieced runners, maybe with something at the end of each end, but like a more pieced, or I don't want to cover up all my work, basically is what I'm getting at. So I have disassembled the kit, and then I sewed borders onto the one block I had done, and I think I'll just, it's so bold, I think I'll just make a pillow out of it, or yeah, probably a pillow. Anyways, it's cute. I remember really enjoying it when I appliqued it. You know it's old applique because my stitches are like puny patoony. Like you can't even see them. Anyways. Yeah, I had this block done, so I just sewed some borders on it. I was like, okay, what am I going to do with it? Because I'm not going to make the full runner anymore. But... and these are pretty, anyways. So I'm going to finish that and move it on, and that felt really good. And then I started one that I had kitted up last year. I think that's probably a good place to go. Yeah, I kitted this up last year, but then I didn't go any farther with it. So that is this runner, which is called it's called something. I don't have a cover page for this yet. It looks like I just threw this in. I think it's called Sunflower something. Sunflower something. I'm gonna pull this out of the plastic. Basket of sunflowers. And it came from Quilt Sampler Fall Winter 2007. So, Quilt Sampler magazine, which I think is a Better Homes and Garden, 2007. It's practically an antique, like me. So, oh my goodness. Now that I've pulled them out, they're a mess. So, let's see here. What can I show you? I have... Okay. I've done one of the baskets. I do not love... I followed their instructions for the basket handles, which was cutting a certain width, pressing under, and then stitching it down. And I do not care for how it lays. There's fullness. And I don't know if the strip is too wide or if I didn't quite get the angle right on the basket handle. Anyways, I need to play with I have 3 more opportunities. 3 more opportunities to do better. Anyways, it'll be fine. Especially once it's all quilted, that will ease out. But I have the center block and then my baskets, which are the middle. I've got my sashings cut and everything's kind of looking pretty intense there, but. And then the main feature are the applique blocks, which I've started. This is not going to be done this year. I ambitiously thought it would when I was cutting these out in August. I was like, oh, no prob, Bob, I'm going to do this. But this will be ready for next autumn, but a fun stitch for this autumn. So I need to get that star stitch down. When I do my wool applique, I start with the smallest pieces, which are typically more prone to falling off, or because I use really lightweight fusible. I'll get this on the board. The Z. Anyways, these don't have any fusible on them because I fused my shapes onto the wrong wool, which was a big bummer. And so then I just cut these out freehand style and pinned them on, and I have one of them pinned on. So anyways, I was saying the way I like to stitch these on is I like to stitch top layers because they tack down the bottom layers. So this one, even if it starts to lift off, it's not going anywhere. It's in place. And then I like to get the smaller shapes because they have less fusible on them and it's lightweight to begin with, so they are more prone to lifting off of my background. And then usually I'll go for vines and stringy shapes less for the same reason. Again, just less fusible to hold it in place. Anyways, but my star is beginning to lift off, so he'll be the next guy who gets tackled. And it would be nice to get the centers stitched so I can get the pins off there because thread catches on it and it's annoying. But they're really pretty. I always forget how much I love wool applique until I do it, and I'm like, okay, I've got to find a way to adjust my schedule so that I can do some more wool applique because I really love it. And I have some really gorgeous projects both in the works and in the dreams that I would love to get to. which is probably, we'll almost get to one of those. So, out of the woodworks projects. The first out of the woodworks project is my, sorry for my squeaky chair. It is this one, Pumpkin Hollow by Bunny Hill Designs. I got, it was a year or two ago that I had worked on one of the blocks. So if you've been with me from the beginning, you'll have seen this before, but it's been a while. It's definitely been a while. I didn't get very far. Their example is 100% in wool with cotton backgrounds. I am doing a mixture of wool and cotton applique on mine. So it's kind of a hybrid. They have an alternate version that is all cotton applique. That's really cute. And mine's kind of a hybrid between the two because I like both mediums. And you can see on the wall behind me, I actually have the first 3 blocks hanging on that clipboard. And I almost pulled them down, but then decided, I'll do them when I recap what I've accomplished this year, perhaps. Anyway, so I've pulled out my partial block. This potatoey blob is actually going to be a pumpkin car. And then I have some vines to applique or embroider in there. And I have a few. These started to lift off, so they have pins, but it's kind of an example of what they will be. Lots of fig tree fabric, soft, dusty, muted. So pretty, so fun, and suddenly a lot more interesting to me this year. I don't know, it's just something about these old projects are sparking joy again, so that's pretty exciting. So I would like to get a couple of those blocks done in October and November. So by the end of November, if I could have 2 or 3 of those blocks completed, I'd have about half of the blocks done. So that would feel like a really good stopping point for the season. And something different. So I want to look over my goals here. Oh, that bucket we were going to come back to. We won't go in too deeply at this point because I've already been chatting at you for an hour and a half. But I did pull colors for the Scary Woods. I don't remember if I have shared this. Sorry for the glare. There, that's better. So cute. And I saw this one in person at a quilt shop in Seattle, and it was just darling, and owls are my jam. So this is that bucket that had some things cut out and some things not. So I'm going to carefully set these aside so I can get to the stack. These are my tree colors. Get closer so they're not totally blown out. But I've got trunks, and then we're gonna go super scrappy in the body of the trees, and then this will be the ground. This old thimbleberries. Ooh, it's gonna be so fun, so warm and good. And then this is my background. Whoops, that's the back of the background. So I think that'll be really cute. And then my owls, which I also have the backgrounds cut out for. Let me see if I can get this out. Yep, winner. Okay, so these are the bodies of the owls. And each owl will be a different color. But then they'll have, they have different feathers in their chests. So we'll go scrappy on that. And then they all have toes and eyes, so they'll each get their own eye color and toe beans, beaks. I don't remember, I'm sure these intense colors I was thinking for the beaks. So anyways, those will be really fun and a fun way to kind of play with a different color palette and make it my own by, of course, complicating things, because they just did the same gray and the same black and and the same 2 or 3 greens for all of them. So mine will have more movement, and you know, it'll just be mine. So I do not have this border fabric yet. I figure I couldn't find anything in stash that would work for it. So I'll get the center done, and then it'll be a treat to go out and shop for a fun border. But that'll probably be next year, because I'm just going to get a few. I'd like to get a few owls and a few trees done for now. This is a fun one though, because I don't feel like it's super seasonal, because it's just owls and trees. So if I felt like stitching this, you know, into the winter, it would be fine. Though I do have winter plans a-percolating already, because I am always a couple months ahead of what I'm actually doing in my brain. Okay, last but not least, mostly because if I want my goals to happen, I have to work on this out of season. But I came across this box that just says winter wool, and I knew exactly what it was as soon as I saw that. I haven't worked on this in so many years. This is another one I started back around the same time as my 1930s top I just finished, and I'll pop up a picture here, because this is another one that Amanda and I, my sister and I, started together, and I'm fairly confident she also has this pattern, because I have dug through every shelf and every drawer and every file. I can't find it everywhere. I even went into old binders of finished projects, and I can't find it. So, but the pattern is called Silent Night. Pop it in a picture. It is by Timeless Traditions, and the artist is Norma Whaley, and I love her patterns. They're very primitive, but they are just cozy and warm, and I love them. Anyways, I have, as we pull this out of its neglected bucket, all of the log cabins that go around the edge done in all these beautiful old brushed cottons and woven plaids, and you know, I've got some oh, my brain just died. Anyways, very pretty, very warm. These have been done for over a decade. Why are they still sitting here? Because there are 4 panels of applique that have not been appliqued. So we'll start with these bottom ones first, but they are ready to go. They are assembled. They are pressed. All I have to do is stitch around the designs, and the assembly on this quilt would go so fast because it's just big pieces. This is probably my favorite row. It's so cute. Oh my goodness, all little critters. These have been sitting in this box for eons, you guys. Church with the angel. I'm shocked all of those little cherries or whatever they are still there. Those need to be stitched ASAP. I love this like salt box style house. That's so cute. Great wool too. And then this one, it's so funny. You can see my old stitching versus my current stitching. I started stitching this with 2 strands of DMC, which I don't do anymore. I use 1 strand of DMC for most of my wool applique. But here's the first row, which has stitching on it now. So early days stitching was my little skier. That ski is never going anywhere. The ski poles. Oh my goodness. Anyways, but I've stitched the trunk on this tree. The owl is stitched down now because he was starting to fall off. I just did the fox and some of the branches on this tree, and then our little cardinal up here. The bunny is stitched down. Anyways, if I could stitch one of these every 2 weeks. I think that's what I mathed out. And then whip it together. I could have this hanging on my wall for December. Like, the hard work is done. Now I just gotta do the fun stuff. Just have to make some applique time happen. Anyways, so we'll see if it actually happens. But I'm definitely, it's out. It's getting stitches here and there. And truly, if I buckled down, that wouldn't take too terribly long. I mean, there's hours of stitching in there, to be sure. But wool applique, it's very calming for me. You don't have to think about it, especially once everything's in place. You just sit and whip stitch around the edge, and maybe there's a little bit of embroidery embellishment here and there, but not on that one. It's very simple. Anyway, so I'd love to get that done. Really, that would be awesome. And if it didn't have a Santa on it, it would read more winter, but I actually have, if I can get this done, and this is my like rule to myself, that has to be done before I start the other one. But I have another project in my winter Christmas stack that I'm kind of thinking about, and if I can get this done, I'm going to start that one because it's so pretty, and it's like a snowman village. Anyways, similar vibes, but lighter, a little more winter, a little less dark, cold Christmas night. So, yes. Let me look at here. Look at my list. Yeah, so that's what I worked on. Those are the things I've found in cold storage. Kind of my plans for October. And November. And I'll be back for another Quilting Bee probably mid-November, before Thanksgiving, certainly. And then you'll probably, and we'll talk about what I did with my fall stitching, where I'm going with my Christmas winter stitching. But then we'll probably meet up as far as Quilting Bees go after the new year. So one more Quilting Bee this year. Unless I get a wild hair mid-December, I'm like, let's talk Christmas, which could totally happen. But my parents are coming, and they'll actually be staying with us this Christmas. So for at least 2 weeks of December, I will have company, which means I'll probably spend the 2 weeks preceding that. Also, save the chubby unicorns. I love it. Anyways, I'll probably spend the 2 weeks before they come frantically cleaning and prepping, and, you know, as one does. But our Thanksgiving is quiet. I think it's just us this year, because my sister is going to her in-laws' family, which will be lovely for them. But yeah, it'll just be my husband and I for Christmas this year. For Thanksgiving this year. So I'll definitely do a Quilting Bee before, and then we'll see what happens in December. December's always a bit of a wild hair. So it would just have to be the right mood hitting. Otherwise, we'll wrap all of that up in January. So yeah, got lots of fun things. I'm already thinking about how I'm going to approach my quilting in 2026. It's going to be different. I finished a lot of tops this year. I haven't quite met my quilting goal yet, but my machine pooped out on me. So we'll see how much we can catch up with that, and if not, we'll just carry that goal into the next year. But I still feel good about what I've done. There's no complaints at all. I've definitely been productive. But I've got some fun plans, and I have this idea, which we'll go more into in November or December, depending on how videos pan out. But I have this concept of kind of stretching myself, kind of being brave and trying the things that have been intimidating because I know in my head I have the skill set at this point to do these projects. It's just a matter of slowing down and giving them space. So perhaps slightly more complicated projects next year with super satisfying results, but you know, slower results too, which isn't a bad thing. Anyways, yeah. But then keeping a couple simple projects in the wings so that there's a place for my brain to rest. So lots of fun things, lots of fun ideas, and yeah, always spending a little time in my studio. Okay, take care, my friends. I hope you have a lovely week. I guess it's weekend. It's Saturday today, at least. Who knows when you'll be watching this, but a lovely week to you whenever that is, and hope you can get some sewing done. Are you working on seasonal projects, or are... I have a dog hair in my mouth. Ew. Where is it? Sorry. It's like in my teeth. Okay, I got it. Crazy. Hi, baby. She looks at me with this like, what? I'm sorry, I just had glitter in my mouth. It's fine. Anyways, I hope you're working on something fun. I know some people are seasonal like me. Some people just keep going till they're done on what they're done on. So let me know what you're working on. And if you want to send me pictures, shoot me an email because I love to see what people are working on. Anyways, either way, take care. I'll see you back for another Quilting Bee in November. And yeah, happy sewing, my friends.